Hello and welcome to another episode of Snakes Territory, part of the Foul Territory Network. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, maybe leave us a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts. I am Jesse Friedman alongside Jack Sommers. And wow, that was something. That ninth inning between the Diamondbacks and the St. Louis Cardinals, after neither team could push a run across for 8 innings, Diamondbacks score 4 in the top half of the ninth. Paul Sewald made things a little too interesting in the bottom half of the ninth. But Jack, Diamondbacks ultimately come away with a 4-3 win, and they snap their 3-game losing streak in the process.
Yeah, it looked like Paul had kind of gotten away from his non-save situation difficulties, but they reared their ugly head again tonight. Just a quickie on that one. I know from the past, Torrey said the 4-run lead can be a tricky situation because if he brings in another reliever ahead of the closer, and a couple of guys get on base, then he's kind of stuck bringing in his closer with men on base in the ninth inning. He'd prefer to give him a clean inning. So a lot of times they just go ahead with the fourth, with the 4-run lead and let the closer head in there. And also because that top of the ninth took so long, very much as they said on the broadcast, Paul had been warming up for a long time. So, you can't fault Torrey for going to Sewald there in a non-save just because in the first couple months of the season he had issues in those situations. The last two, he did fine in non-save situations, but it is a thing. I can't explain it. I don't know why closers in non-save situations just seem to struggle. And people can have theories for whatever they want, but it clearly is an issue for many of them, including Paul Sewald.
There were some rumblings about Paul Sewald maybe having a case for the All-Star game, given that he has, 18 saves at this point in the season. He's 18 for 19. But after this game, Sewald now is an ERA up over 4. I don't think the All-Star conversation, I don't think that is going to go anywhere, unfortunately. But the larger point, Jack, is the Diamondbacks were able to hold on in this game, snap the losing streak, as I said, and it really came down to a couple of key at-bats in the top half of the ninth inning. This game was very much trending toward familiar territory where the D-backs got a decent outing from their starter, but just were not able to come through with runners in scoring position. D-backs were 0 for 9 with runners in scoring position entering the ninth inning. But then Nolan Arenado came through, was able to hit a RBI double that gave the Diamondbacks a 1-0 lead. Lourdes Gurriel Jr. followed that up with a 2-run single. And then several batters later, what wound up being very important is the Diamondbacks scored a 4th run on a pass ball. Jorge Barosa entered the game to pinch run for Gurriel after his 2-run single. Barosa able to score from third on a pass ball with Geraldo Perdomo at the plate. So Diamondbacks still weren't great with runners in scoring position in this game, Jack. 2 for 13 is not what you're looking for, but they were able to get the big hits when it mattered.
Yeah, I mean, they only had 3 hits heading into that ninth inning. They had 3 more in the ninth inning. Still not a great offensive performance, but they did come through finally when they needed to against, not a good bullpen. The Cardinals do not have a good bullpen. And the fella that they banged around, Swanson, I mean, he's really been struggling this year. I think he came in with a 6.5 ERA, and he only managed to record 1 out. So, they took advantage of a struggling pitcher, which is something that you need to do, especially when you are a struggling hitter. As most of you probably that follow me on Twitter know, all throughout the night, I was posting the runner in scoring position numbers since May 26th. Now, fortunately, I was able to give a little bit of a happier update to that. But the numbers were not pretty. If you can slide that up, Jessica. Oh, there you go. So, through this game, they're now 28 for 202, bat 139 since May 26th.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, throughout the game, I updated this. They came in with 189 at-bats, but they got 2 for 13 for tonight. So, that's better than 0 for 13 or 1 for 13. It was enough to be the game winner. But as you can see here, there's the only person with double-digit at-bats batting above 250 is Cattell. You have Adrian Del Castillo and Lourdes with very limited at-bats, both going 250. Gabby's at 231. Lawler was at 200 on 1 for 5. And then everybody else was under 200, including some zeros at the bottom and some fairly difficult lines there. 1 for 15 from Pavin Smith, 2 for 24 for Arenado, but that 1 became a 2 tonight in a big way. Perdomo struggling 2 for 22. So, this is something that we all keep diving into. We keep looking at. I know, Jesse, you were looking at some numbers earlier today, similar to what I had been doing, looking at the underlying stuff and the quality of contact. And it's just been really bad, but they finally got off to Schneid tonight. Fingers crossed that's enough to get them moving in the right direction, take a deep breath, and loosen up a little bit.
Narrowing in on those two big at bats there in the ninth inning. This was Nolan Arenado's at bat. Runners at first and second, 1 out. Of course, huge spot. Pavin Smith had just drawn a walk, worked a really nice 10-pitch at bat in order to make that happen. And then Nolan Arenado is up there, and you and I were texting back and forth, basically pitch by pitch. Arenado takes the first 2 pitches. He's up in the count 2-0. And then he gets a middle sweeper. You can see there as pitch number 3, and he takes it. And I mean, I guess you can somewhat understand, like, okay, I guess he's sitting fastball there. But man, that pitch was truly right down the middle. Seemed like a golden opportunity for him. He spits on it, and then he swings at the next pitch. Pitch number 4 there, a sinker in on the hands at 97 miles per hour, just fouled that one off. And then at that point, he's kind of playing defense. Pitch number 5, a sinker even further in off the plate, and he swings it at that one as well. Count stays 2-2. But then Nolan was able to bounce back. Pitch number 6 was a sweeper down and away. We've seen him fall prey to that pitch quite a bit this season, but he was able to lay off. And then number 7 was just a cookie right down the middle, 105 miles per hour off the bat, drives it into the left field corner. And that's something the Diamondbacks have really been missing with runners in scoring position. Of course, there hasn't really been much action in any regard, Jack, but hitting with slug with runners in scoring position, I mean, that has been virtually non-existent for the Diamondbacks over the past few weeks. And Arenado, with that hit, not only drove in the first run, but set up Lourdes Gurriel to drive in 2 runs after that.
Yeah, that's a great point about, not hitting with any slug. It's not only not just getting hits, it's, no extra base hits, or very seldom, So that was terrific at bat at that point to hang in there on those tough pitches that he did have to foul off. I mean, so, he finally did come through and exhale. That's, that's the word of the night. I mean, we almost changed our thumbnail for the YouTube video to the word exhale. But fortunately, the bullpen held on. We'll get to that in just a little bit.
Yeah, before we do, I guess we should hit on the Gurriel at bat after Nolan. There were also some good takes here from Lourdes in this AB. He was up in the count 2-1, fouled off a pitch just a little bit above the zone. Maybe you don't love that swing. 2-2 count. He lays off a sweeper that actually doesn't show up in the picture that you see here because it was so far outside. But frankly, Lourdes has swung at some sweepers like that over the course of the season, especially with 2 strikes. He's able to lay off that pitch, and then pitch number 6 there in a 3-2 count. It really was a pretty decent pitch there by Swanson, but Gurriel able to drive at 99 miles per hour off the bat. It was on the ground, but if you hit it 99 miles per hour off the bat, good things are going to happen. And that one was able to find outfield grass and sneak on through into center field and turn a 1-0 lead into a 3-0 lead.
Yeah, he really needed that as well. I mean, Lourdes has been struggling mightily, not just from runners in scoring position, but just in general all year long. He doesn't hit very many balls hard, but it was nice to see him, nail that one. He had a double earlier in the game. That was probably one of his best hits all season.
Yeah.
So, getting past the drawn in infield with the sharp ground ball, 99 miles an hour. So, plenty hard enough to get past. again, you got to hope that that's enough of a catalyst to get him going. We know that when Lourdes gets hot, it gets very hot. And it happens all of a sudden just when we're completely writing him off, which we're close to doing. So hopefully, hopefully this is a moment for him as well to just relax and get up there and do what he does.
I'm glad you brought up the double earlier in the game. That was a really nice swing from Lourdes going to right center field, something we don't see him do all that often. And the lack of slug for Lourdes this season has been pretty concerning. It's one thing for Lourdes to go through dry spells. We've seen that in the past, but he's hitting 216 and slugging 284 this season. I mean, out of his 25 hits, only 6 of them have been extra bases. And Lourdes Gurriel, in order for him to be a viable offensive player and in order for him to be a good player in general, he's got to, crank one over the fence every now and then, or certainly be getting into the gaps on a pretty regular basis. So maybe those couple of swings for him in this game can be a catalyst and, as you said, help Lourdes turn things around. You mentioned Brandyn Garcia or the bullpen, and of course that was Brandyn Garcia who really came through there in the ninth inning, saved Paul Sewald out of what was quite a mess. We're going to talk about Garcia. We're going to talk about some upcoming pitching decisions that the Diamondbacks have, the future for Pavin Smith, a whole lot more. And we'll do all of that on the other side of this break here on Snakes Territory.
You know why you're enjoying this minute? Because we're happy, Kratz. We're happy because we're wearing Mack Weldon.
Yes, I'm 6'5", and nobody can give me tall clothing, but Mack Weldon allows me to have it. So I don't really have to care about how I look, and I still look good because I don't put a lot of time into what I do to pick out my clothes. Mack Weldon takes care of it for me.
Classic, always in style, made from the world's most comfortable performance materials. Summer gets sweaty, don't let unnecessary sweat spots emerge. Mack Weldon's Air Knit X fabric helps you out. Their lightest fabric is fused with nylon mesh for maximum airflow. Skip the midday wardrobe changes. The barely there feel also keeps you feeling more dry and fresh. Don't sweat the heat this summer. Feel as effortlessly cool as you look with Mack Weldon. Go to mackweldon.com and get 20% off your first order of $125 or more with promo code FOUL. That's MackWeldon.com, code FOUL.
We are back here on Snakes Territory. We'll get into some of the roster moves that we're expecting the Diamondbacks to make in the coming days. There's really quite a few of them at this point. But first, is there a reliever in this on this team right now, Jack, that you trust more than Brandyn Garcia?
It's funny you mention that because as many of our listeners know, I like to play around with all the expected stats and just see who's lining up versus their ERA. And, coming into this game, Brandyn Garcia's average of all the expected stats was the best on the team. Now, granted, very small sample size. I think he's now up to 16 innings pitched or something like that. And numbers can change awfully fast when we're talking about reliever sample sizes. So, with a caveat. But I mean, he essentially, if you take his xERA, FIP, xFIP, and Sierra and average those out, he's got the best numbers on the team in that small sample size. And so it matches the eyeball test, right? I mean, we're watching him pitch and hitters are just not having comfortable at bats. He's mostly throwing strikes. The ball's moving. He's inducing a lot of really awkward swings. And when they do put the ball in play, it's on the ground and it's not hit all that hard. So, what you're seeing, it looks very real. There's nothing, lucky or fluky about what we've seen. Now he's got to keep doing it. Pitchers can go in and out of the zone with regards to their mechanics and release point and control and command. And that's been an issue for Garcia in the past. So I hate to keep giving all these caveats out. It's 16 innings, but it's been a fabulous 16 innings. And he looks as good or better than Juan Murillo did for the first 2 months of the season.
Yeah, I mean, he's just looked absolutely dominant. It is the marriage of a ground ball specialist with the ability to also generate swing and miss. I mean, that's what we're seeing with Brandyn Garcia. According to Fangraphs, he has a 68.4% ground ball rate. this season, which is exceptionally high. And then you see the swing and miss. He gets a really big one there with JJ Weatherholt at the plate. And JJ Weatherholt, by the way, is one of the best up and coming players in all of baseball. So the moment the lineup turned around, it was like, all right, this could get ugly here for the Diamondbacks. Brandyn Garcia, clearly the right man for the job, able to make pretty quick work of Weatherholt, strikes him out there on 4 pitches. Just continues to be a really, really good season for Brandon. We did get a super chat just a few moments ago. Shout out to @FearlessVampireKiller. We very much appreciate the super chat. This person says, "Thank you both for what you do. You guys produce the content I've always wanted as a D-backs fan. Do you think Locklear is on his way up anytime soon? What about a return for Jose Fernandez or Ryan Waldschmidt?" Interesting question here. Tyler Locklear, of course, has been healthy for the Diamondbacks for a while, just kind of soaking down in AAA. It has not felt like he has dominated down there, Jack. I'm looking at his numbers entering today. He's slashing 295, 365, 409. But in AAA, that works out to just an 89 WRC plus. So suffice it to say, Jack, maybe the D-backs want to see Locklear get back to really dominating in AAA before they bring him back up.
Yeah, I mean, look, they made a choice as far as a right-handed first baseman to bring up Lou James Groover. And although Groover got off to a slow start, the quality of his at-bats have looked, slowly but surely improving most of the time, I guess. That was a very tepid endorsement, I know. But, and his defenses looked okay at first base. So I don't know, if Locklear is doing enough to leapfrog him on the depth chart. Now, if Groover, went into a prolonged slump and got sent back down, then one would think that Locklear would be next man up and get an opportunity with regards to the short side of the platoon at first base. So really keep your eyes on Lou James Groover if you're a big Tyler Locklear fan, and see what's happening there. If the quality of Groover's at-bats continue to improve, and he's gotten a couple extra base hits lately, including a double today. He got stranded. He drew a walk in the 8th inning. So it's kind of one step forward, 2 steps back for the rookie. Again, the numbers are not good, but if he does enough to hold his spot, then it's a little tough for Locklear to jump over him unless he gets really hot. Locklear needs to hit with more power. As Jesse just pointed out, that 88 or 89 WRC plus, it's because the slugging is so low. He's getting some hits, but it's Reno. Everybody has a good batting average in Reno. He's going to have to show more power.
As far as Jose Fernandez and Ryan Waldschmidt, Jose Fernandez has actually really struggled in his time in Reno since the Diamondbacks sent him back there in 12 games, 52 at-bats. He has a 614 OPS, hitting just 212 in Reno as of right now. Ryan Waldschmidt, just a handful of games for him, of course. He's been decent so far. He's hit a couple of home runs, has drawn 3 walks in 5 games there as well. So yeah, I think decent signs from Ryan Waldschmidt so far. Again, just a handful of games, but I think it's only a matter of time before we see Waldschmidt back in the big leagues.
Yeah, again, that's going to really come down to what happens with Lourdes, right? I mean, if he gets hot and holds his spot. I mean, if he slumps like he's been slumping all year, by the trade deadline at the very least, he's probably going to be off the roster, whether they give him away or DFA him. So I would expect Waldy back up sometime in August at the latest, but barring injury, right? You never know what's going to happen on the injury front. But it's really tough for me to see right now. Don't forget, you have other moves about to happen in the next 48 hours with regards to another corner outfielder coming up, a left-handed hitter, Max Kepler. So it's really difficult for me to see a pathway for Waldy back onto the roster in the very short term.
Eduardo Rodriguez was very good today, and we should probably talk about him as well. 6 2/3 innings, 3 hits, no runs, 3 walks, 5 strikeouts. He threw 95 pitches, 58 of them were strikes. And Erod, Jack, I someone cannot believe that I'm saying this. Erod has an ERA of 2.27 on June 23rd. If that is not the epitome of you cannot predict baseball, I'm not sure what is. But it has been a really good season for Eduardo Rodriguez. And certainly the Diamondbacks don't win this game without him being every bit as good as he was today.
Yeah, quite frankly, I was not happy that he got pulled from the game. I felt that he should have been left in there to finish the seventh inning. Now, he did walk 3 batters over his last couple innings, right? I think he had two walks in that sixth inning, that miraculous sixth inning that he got out of that jam. That was really quite something. I mean, bases loaded, he'd walk 2 batters, and then he got a pop-up to shortstop. Tommy Troy thought he was playing Aussie rules football and climbed up Perdomo's back as Perdomo went out to the outfield. And a stunned Perdomo gathered himself as, who was the runner? Herrera kind of hesitated to run home. He kind of came off the bag, and then he stopped for a second and then went, and that was enough for Jerry to throw him out on a bang play. So there was a little bit of good fortune to get out of that inning, perhaps, getting the double play instead of still having the bases loaded with 2 outs. So that was a 6th inning, and then Eduardo issued a walk, I believe, he did not. He didn't issue a walk in the 7th. When did the first one come?
No,
Save me here, Jeff.
I want to say it was the inning prior, right? It was the bottom of the 5th where things started to look. No, it wasn't. Bottom of the 5th was a 1-2-3 inning. It was in the bottom of the 3rd. He walked Pedro Pajes in the bottom of the 3rd inning, issued the 2 walks in the bottom of the 6th. And at that point, it felt like, I mean, you and I were texting back and forth, of course, as we always do. And it felt like that's where the wheels were kind of going to come off for Eduardo Rodriguez. But man, how many times have we said it this season where Erod gets himself into a bind and then finds his way out of it? And maybe there's some good fortune there with the odd play with Perdomo and Troy that somehow wound up benefiting the Diamondbacks. Herrera trying to be aggressive there was a really nice throw from Perdomo to the plate in order to prevent that. But regardless, Erod deserves a ton of credit, Jack. He was 15 for his first 18 in first pitch strikes, which was really impressive to me. The first couple turns through the Cardinals lineup, it felt like they just had absolutely nothing on him. He started to throw fewer first pitch strikes there in the 6th, and that's where things got a little bit sketchy for him. But overall, he was really good in this game. The changeup was excellent. He was able to generate some swing and miss when he needed to, and especially with Michael Soroka now on the shelf for the foreseeable future, he's the Diamondbacks ace for the foreseeable future. That's just the guy he's been for a while now.
Yeah, I mean, we're at the point now where, like, if he hangs on here and has 2 more good starts similar to this, he's got to be the D-backs second All-Star, right?
I mean, if you have an ERA in the low 2s, yeah. I mean, I don't know if it really matters what the peripheral numbers look like at that point. I know the National League is pretty stacked in terms of starting pitching right now, but yeah, you'd have to think if his ERA stays in the low 2s, Erod is a deserving All-Star for sure, and a huge reason why the Diamondbacks were able to come away with a win in this one. Well, we have a whole lot more to get to. As we were talking about earlier, the Diamondbacks have a lot of roster decisions coming up. We're going to talk about Mitch Bratt, who it sounds like is going to pitch tomorrow. Brandon Pfaadt, it sounds like, is maybe going to pitch on Friday. We'll get into all of that on the other side of this break here on Snakes Territory.
Kratz, Mint Mobile plans, still just $15 a month.
And you're getting a ton from that $15.
That's right. And we've talked about this for a while. It hasn't changed. It's still all there for you. I'm talking about unlimited talk, text, and data, fast, reliable coverage on the nation's largest 5G network. Oh, and an award-winning care team. Mint Mobile has it all for $15 a month. You can even bring your current phone and your number, choose from 3, 6, or 12-month plans, say goodbye to a monthly bill, ditch overpriced wireless with Mint Mobile. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/territory. That's mintmobile.com/territory. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/territory. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
We are back here on Snakes Territory. Jack, we got some interesting news earlier in the day. D-backs pitching prospect Mitch Bratt is expected to pitch on Wednesday. He joined the Diamondbacks taxi squad today. This is not official. I imagine Torey Lovullo might make this official after the game. We'll be keeping an eye on Twitter to see if there are any announcements out of St. Louis tonight. But it sounds like we're going to see Mitch Bratt in some form on Wednesday, Jack, whether it be as a starting pitcher or maybe the D-backs use him as the bulk guy, but with an opener before him, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little tough to say what the D-backs' exact plans are, and that may be why they're being squirrely about who's going to be the starter, is because they're looking at the opener, like you just said.
Yeah.
It's notable with Bratt, we were going back and forth. Was it a back injury? Was it a shoulder injury? But once again, Nick Picoro, who's in St. Louis, he was able to tell us that it was indeed a shoulder injury, which is what I thought it was all along. I mean, upper middle back is shoulder. So, hopefully there's no residual problems with that. His first 4 innings back were good when he did come back. So, fingers crossed there's smooth sailing from here on forward. And yeah, an opener tomorrow and then Bratt to come in and follow might just be exactly what they're looking at. And then Pfaadt on Friday's interesting. I mean, he pitched last Saturday. So, he only he went 3 1/3. So he had 4 up downs. He only had I think 50-something pitches.
I think it was 3 2/3. 3
3
2/3, 52 pitches is what I have down.
Yeah. So, but still only 4 up downs. He didn't get the 5th up down.
Yeah.
And his pitch count was still in the 50s. So, basically his pitch count's going to be relegated to the mid 60s. But also, Friday could have been Jose Cabrera. So does Jose Cabrera start Saturday after Pfaadt? And then they're pushing everybody back, giving him an extra day. In other words, are they going to go a 6-man rotation, 1 turn through the rotation, or 2? I don't know. So a lot of intrigue revolving around this. I think if Jose Cabrera doesn't get another start, I mean, Torey indicated that he'd earned another start. So this is a lot of intrigue surrounding Brandon Pfaadt being tabbed as the Friday starter, unofficially.
Right. Yeah, this is just from Nick Picoro's most recent story in his list of upcoming starting pitching matchups. He had Brandon Pfaadt listed for the Diamondbacks on Friday, so it's not official. It's not listed on MLB.com or anything, but that is what Nick is expecting, at least as of right now. The Diamondbacks have generally been pretty anti-6-man rotation in the past, but I kind of see it in this situation. Because the D-backs have a whole bunch of games in a row, so it's not like you're making anyone pitch on 7 days rest or something goofy like that. And the D-backs kind of need some clarity here on who are the guys that they want in their rotation. They're going to be without Ryan Nelson for a while. They're going to be without Michael Soroka for a while. Obviously, there are other members of the rotation struggling as well. Zac Gallen certainly comes to mind. But there's maybe some value right now in seeing what Mitch Bratt looks like, seeing what Cabrera looks like, seeing what Brandon Pfaadt looks like, and trying to give those guys an opportunity to show what they can do and make your decision after that.
Yeah. I mean, July 2nd is an off day, so they don't need to actually insert somebody at that point because they have the off day, giving them the extra day off. So a lot of intrigue. I think this is very much a stay tuned type situation. I'll be back at the ballpark myself on Monday. So we'll be able to hopefully get a little bit more clarity of what's going on, but we're still not going to know exactly what the plan is.
Well, we do know, courtesy of Israel in the chat, who just is telling us that Nick Picoro has tweeted out Mitch Bratt will start for the Diamondbacks tomorrow, according to Torey Lovello. So we do have that clarity. Mitch Bratt, I mean, this is probably not the circumstances that you wanted Mitch Bratt to enter. As you said, he's working his way back from an injury. He's not going to be able to go out there and throw 100 pitches, but he has made some progress working his way back from that shoulder injury. He worked 4 innings his last time out, through 48 pitches in that outing, four innings, 2 hits, 2 runs, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts. So you're probably looking at like 60 pitches for Mitch Bratt tomorrow. The D-backs are going to need to have some length ready to back him up. Maybe Cole Drake is part of that. He's with the team right now. Maybe he's the one who gets sent out, though, for Mitch Bratt tomorrow. It'd be interesting to see how they handle that. But Mitch Bratt, Jack, has a 2.84 ERA this season in AAA, and that is not an easy thing to do. 42 strikeouts to 12 walks in 44 and a third innings, an opposing batting average of 194. The velocity isn't huge; it's low 90s. But we talked with Saris on our show about Bratt a little bit a few weeks ago. He mentioned he really likes Bratt's curveball, and even though Bratt's stuff doesn't jump off the charts, 2.84 ERA in Reno is really impressive and shows that he can command his stuff well and really knows how to maximize his arsenal.
Yeah. One other thing, Jesse, keep in mind is, they probably, if they're looking at a shorter starter, 60 pitches, I mean, you're doing well if he finishes 4 innings, right? 15 pitches an inning. So, the odds are you get 3, and maybe you get him into the 4th inning. But unless he's super efficient and things are going really well, it's tough to get 4 full innings in just 60 pitches from a rookie making his debut, right?
Yeah.
On the other hand, he is a contact pitcher at the same time, so maybe, things go well in that regard. However, at that point, Torey's probably going to want to bring in a right-hander.
Yeah.
Right.
It's weird having Cole Drake and Mitch Bratt at the same time. It doesn't really make sense to have Drake piggyback behind Bratt.
Yeah, you bring in the right-hander. There's probably more right-handed bats in the lineup. Maybe you force Ollie to make some, mid-game moves, bring in the left-handed bat, and then you can counter again, with your left-handed reliever like Garcia, who didn't throw very many pitches tonight and certainly is available again tomorrow. In the later innings, if you got some lefties that have come into the game to face your right-handed relievers. So, they have a matchup opportunity there as well. So we'll see how that goes. But interesting, two rookies making their debut in a week is not what you want, but that's what you get when you can put 2 of your starters on the IL.
There have been quite a few rookie debuts for the Diamondbacks here over the past few weeks. Lou James Groover joining the team, Tommy Troy, Ryan Waldschmidt, of course, Jose Fernandez right at the beginning of the year. Rookies playing a bigger role on this 2026 roster than certainly I anticipated. We do have another super chat here. Shout out to Just Toast 02. This is a bit of a sassy one. They say, how many buckets of bubble gum do you think we can get for Zac Gallen? I'm thinking 2, but that may be a high ask. Certainly we haven't talked about it yet, Jack, and I'm not sure how much more I have to say about Zac Gallen's struggles in 2026. It feels like we've sort of beat the dead horse at this point, but it continues to be a huge issue for this team. He has a 6.10 ERA, which I believe, at least as of yesterday, was the worst ERA in baseball among qualified starting pitchers.
Yeah. I mean, I said last show rather emphatically that I did not think that they were going to DFA him. I still don't. They don't have enough starters, although he's not valid as a starter right now. I think that Zac Gallen needs to move to the bullpen. And the reason why is very simple. Like, if you look at his stuff plus numbers, I mean, the bottom has just dropped out of how his stuff measures, and we can see it. He doesn't get the swing and miss at all now. I mean, that's completely collapsed. No one's chasing on the curveball. Nobody swings and misses at his fastball. And on the other hand, we have seen Zac pick up velocity at times. I mean, it's not unusual to see him all of a sudden throw 97, for a couple of pitches, or an inning. And my gut tells me that Zac would be a candidate to see his stuff improve somewhat coming out of the bullpen. Now, if he's just, and I'm talking short reliever, I'm not talking, try to get 6 outs out of him. I'm talking send him out there, let him try to get 3 outs. Don't let him walk out to the mound with his pitch comp. Limit him to 3 pitches, pick the 3 best, and that's it. You get 3 pitches. You don't need a pitch comp. We're going with these 3, and fire away and just go get me 3 outs. I think that's the only way to get any value out of Zac Gallen for the remainder of his contract as an Arizona Diamondback.
Yeah, that's very fair. There is part of me that thinks back to last season at this time. Zac Gallen at the exact same point a year ago had a 5.6 ERA, which is not quite as bad as where he is right now at 6.10. But he finished the year at 4.83 and had a pretty darn good second half. So certainly last year the vibes weren't great with Gallen this time of year, but it was a good choice. It benefited the Diamondbacks to stick by him, and he was probably their best starting pitcher in the second half of the season. I'm not saying I'm super optimistic about Gallen doing that in 2026, certainly not after what we've seen. But I think it wouldn't shock me. I mean, you look at the projections for whatever those numbers are worth. I mean, they still view Gallen as being a low mid 4 ERA pitcher or something like that. And projections for pitchers are a little all over the place. Those numbers only mean so much, but it's still, I mean, just looking at the numbers with Gallen and the downtick in stuff that we've talked about, it still just isn't significant enough for me to really believe that Gallen went from being, one of the best pitchers in baseball to dead last, to literally the worst pitcher in the league, because his fastball has half an inch less ride and his curveball has an inch less downward break. It just feels like the differences are small enough that there's still a path for Gallen to be decent. And I don't know, maybe I'm being overly optimistic, Jack, in thinking that that's even possible for him at this point. But it just is dumbfounding just how much the bottom is just completely fallen out for him this year.
Well, I mean, look, the stuff plus metrics all degraded even further this year from last year, right?
Yeah, the stuff is worse.
They're
no
measurably
doubt.
worse. Yeah, and so I just don't see it. You and we. By the way, everyone, Jesse and I argued about this for a half hour today offline.
I mean, those kind of things happen every day for us. So
yeah, I was on a drive and he was keeping me company. So, but we debated Zac Gallen for at least 20 minutes of the call. The other 10 was about whether or not the Diamondbacks will ever have a league average offense.
Yeah, that's a whole other question. Tonight was not particularly inspiring, but the Diamondbacks ultimately got just what they needed. Yeah, Gallen is a big question mark for this team, no doubt, and they need him to turn things around like just about anything. That is one of the biggest things this team really needs moving forward, especially with all of the starting pitcher injuries that they've taken on. What's got you laughing?
I'm reading a couple comments here by Ocam, and he's got me rolling on the floor. So Ocam 4 points out, Tommy Henry struck out Alec Thomas in AAA today. What year is this? And then further down, Erod has a lower ERA than Paul Skeens. Like, what world are we living in?
That is wild. Erod has a lower ERA than almost everyone. I mean, a 2.27 ERA into late June. I mean, we're not talking small sample at this point in the year. I am now feverishly looking up where he ranks in ERA. He is 6th in all of baseball in starting pitcher ERA. The only pitchers with a better ERA than Erod are Jacob Mizorowski, Cam Schlittler, Christopher Sanchez, Chase Burns, Chris Sale, and that's it. It's just those 5 guys.
Ohtani.
Oh.
He just barely misses qualifying.
No, well, then he doesn't count, right? If you're not qualifying, you don't show up on the list. So it doesn't count in my book. Yeah, just an unbelievable season for Eduardo Rodriguez. And the D-backs need him to keep doing that in order to to stay where they are in the standings right now. We will look at the standings a little bit later in the show. We're also going to talk about Pavin Smith and his future with the organization. Some injury news with Gabriel Moreno. Still a lot to get to on this episode. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back here in a moment with our Daily Dingers segment here on Snakes Territory. Well, Snakes Territory is brought to you by FanDuel. Baseball fans, the MLB season is in full swing, and FanDuel is giving you a chance to call your shot with Daily Dingers. Joining the action is easy. Just make your free pick on who's hitting a home run in their game. And if you're right, you'll get a profit boost to use on your next bet for a chance at extra winnings. It's just another reason why FanDuel is the home of home runs. Jack, I'm going to say his name before you can, because the D-backs are facing a lefty tomorrow, and I just feel like I have to take Ketel Marte. Matthew Liberatore will make the start for the Cardinals. I don't know if Ketel's going to homer tomorrow. The D-backs don't hit many homers as a team, but there aren't many guys on this roster that are hitting home runs right now, and Ketel against a lefty is about as good of a shot as I have.
Yeah, well, I got one against a lefty that's been even better than Ketel, and that would be Corbin Carroll.
Yeah, hey, that's fair.
Okay, so hey guys, we're taking the easy way out here. You know, it's a great contest, and it's really hard to go wrong with either Corbin Carroll or Ketel Marte. But if you're going to play this game, you got to go with the guys that are most likely to put it over the wall. You know, Corbin Carroll's numbers against lefties this year have been absolutely phenomenal, twice as good as he is against righties. So certainly nothing to be concerned about when he's facing a lefty. He's coming off a tough night. And it just seems like every time Corbin starts to dip a little bit, all of a sudden he just starts to roar back to life again. So that's going to be tomorrow night.
Corbin this season is hitting 394, 453, 670. That is his slash against lefties. That's an 1123 OPS. I will say only 3 of his 13 home runs are against lefties. He's got a whole bunch of doubles and triples and singles against lefties. More of the home runs have come against right-handed pitching, but still a good pick on your part nonetheless. It feels like Ketel and Corbin are just the go-to guys when we think about home runs. Diamondbacks unfortunately do not have a lot of other guys with who are showing that kind of power right now. Head on over to fanduel.com/podcast to get started. That's fanduel.com/podcast to opt in for Daily Dingers and make your free pick on who's hitting a homer. Play ball and swing for the fences on FanDuel, an official partner of Major League Baseball.
No purchase necessary. Opt-in required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including any token expiration and max wager amount. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call or text 1-800-GAMBLER.
We did not intend for the outro music to play there. You can't get rid of us quite that easily. We are back on Snakes Territory with our final segment of the show. Jack, something Steve Berthiaume talked about during the broadcast today was Gabriel Moreno having some issues with his lower half. Torey Lovello said that Gabby's been dealing with some hamstring tightness. We've seen it in how Moreno has run the bases. Berthiaume also pointed out that Moreno was not running hard even in that 9th inning when the Diamondbacks very much needed him to score. Granted, he was on second base and Nolan Arenado hit it off the left field fence. I didn't find that to be all that alarming. But it's clear that Moreno's lower half is not quite right. And the D-backs have pulled back on him in recent days. The hope is that he's sort of back to normal starting this weekend against Tampa.
Yeah, I didn't like what I saw at all. Yes, he was running very gingerly, and he didn't have to run hard because of the type of ball that was hit. But just seems like a disaster waiting to happen. This has bothering him for a couple of weeks. He was pinch hit for on Sunday. A lot of people were questioning why that happened. Just pulling back on him. I was even surprised that Torey didn't pinch run for him in this game. That was mentioned on the broadcast too, and they were like, well, maybe he's feeling better. But clearly, by the way he was running, he was not. So I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop here with Gabby's hamstring. And my concern level, I'm sure Torrey would say his concern level was moderate, but mine is high.
I think anytime Moreno is having issues with his lower half at this point, it's hard not to be concerned. He certainly has a history there, and he's a really important part of this lineup. I mean, it's basically Corbin, Cattell, and Moreno who are doing all of the heavy lifting offensively, at least in recent weeks here. Perdomo has gotten a little bit better here in recent days. His numbers have improved, but he still has a sub 700 OPS. So hopefully all is well with Moreno. Berthiaume did say that Moreno will catch tomorrow. So we certainly hope that is still the plan. Imagine he might get a day off on Thursday before the weekend series in Tampa Bay. So something to monitor there. Another thing to monitor, Jack, is the status of Pavin Smith, who has not exactly been a fan favorite in recent days, as he has very much struggled offensively since rejoining the team. Had a great couple of months at the end of 2024 and the start of 2025, but he gave the Diamondbacks very little offensively for really May onwards last year. And then, of course, what we've seen this season. We did mention earlier, Pavin did work a 10-pitch walk to set up the Diamondbacks comeback there in the 9th inning. He deserves credit for that. But with Max Kepler here, just a couple days away, he'll be eligible on Thursday. We're kind of having to ask the question, Jack, has Pavin Smith taken his last at bat as a member of the Diamondbacks?
Yeah, well, they're starting a lefty tomorrow, so
Right.
He won't be starting. He won't be in the lineup. Doesn't mean he wouldn't pinch hit. If Kepler comes back on the 25th, I mean, okay, their options. First of all, they need a 40-man roster spot, right? So one thing that they could do would be to go ahead and put Ryan Nelson on the 60-day IL. That clears a 40-man roster spot, and then they can use options in the case of Lou James Groover. If they don't want to option Groover, then you have Pavin, Jorge Barosa, or Lourdes Gurriel Jr. that could be DFA'd to make room for Kepler. So one of those three. Or I guess they could option Tommy Troy. So if I talk about options, there's two players that could potentially be optioned when Kepler comes back, would be Groover and Troy. And there's three players that could be DFA'd, Smith, Gurriel, and Barosa. So what are they going to do? I don't know. I know if I put up a poll, it would be 101-0. DFA Pavin Smith, as I see in the chat here from Scott Mack. And I'm not here defending Pavin Smith. He has not been good. I wrote a long article about this a while ago. The team has, the organization, it's not just Torrey, it's both Torrey and Mike, and the organization have really propped up Pavin's spot on the roster and playing time throughout his career. Teams just have a hard time letting go when it's a first-round draft pick. So we'll see where that ends up. But the conventional wisdom has been when Kepler comes back, then that's the end of Pavin Smith. But who knows? They always surprise us. They got to do something.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see. I can't really imagine them optioning Tommy Troy. I know they did option Ryan Waldschmidt, and that was a bit of a surprise, but Troy started his first career game in center field today. They don't have a lot of depth out there in center field. I mean, do you really want Jorge Barosa starting every game out there? That doesn't really feel like an ideal position for them to be in. So it's hard for me to see Tommy Troy. I guess Lou James Groover. He certainly does not have good numbers since being called up, but he did double in this game. I think the at-bats have looked decent overall. Doesn't feel like he clearly should be optioned at this point. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the team does there.
I forgot about Tim Tawa also.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I guess that could be it right there, right?
I think the takeaway from this conversation is there are too many guys on this roster that you could option or DFA and not blink an eye.
Yeah.
Which goes back to our debate about the offense, Jesse, but we'll hold that for another day.
Now we're at the 50-minute mark right now. Maybe people don't want to hear that on this episode. But yeah, I guess Tommy Troy seems like or Tim Tawa, excuse me, seems like maybe the clearest decision there. Someone who has not really gotten much playing time at all when he's been with the major league team here recently. So feels like that's the most likely outcome. But you're right, that larger takeaway of Tawa, Gurriel, Barossa, Smith. I mean, Adrian Del Castillo, even. I know he's the backup catcher now, which gives him a little bit more roster stability. Lou James Groover. Like, there's a lot of guys on this roster that the D-backs need to get something from, and they're just not right now.
Right. Right. By the way, James McCann's probably another week to 10 days away. I think he's going to be back before the All-Star break. He was starting to ramp up. Wouldn't even be surprised to see him back next week.
As far as the standings go, if I can find a way to get this up on the screen here, Diamondbacks do pick up some ground here, not a ton of ground. The Chicago Cubs just won their game. The Padres won. Did the Padres win their game? Did that game finish?
That game's not finished yet.
It's not finished yet. Okay. Padres and Braves right now. The Braves actually just took the lead back 6-5, but they're still in the sixth inning there. So we'll see what happens in that one. But the Diamondbacks, after this win, still a game and a half behind the Cubs for that third wild card spot. They did pass the Pittsburgh Pirates here in the standing. So they would have to jump over 4 teams as things stand right now to get back into the wild card picture.
Yeah. I mean, look, they're going to have to play a lot better. Starting next week, we're going to be talking a lot about the trade deadline. I know Mike Hazen said that he's going to be a buyer. I'm going to file that under TBD. Because there's 4 teams in front of them. They got to finish out this road trip. They got to bounce back and, take advantage of the Giants again, who are once again in disarray. And then, we'll have a little bit clearer picture of how, as they inch towards the All-Star break, where they might come out the other side of that. But, right now, with all the injuries that they've had and where they are in the standings, if they're buyers, it's very tepid buying, I would think.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Even though they would have to jump 4 teams to get into the playoffs right now, a game and a half is still a pretty small number. It's not just a game and a half out of the third spot, but it's also just 3 games out of the top spot. Of course, the Cardinals occupy that spot. The Phillies are effectively tied with them at this point. So the fact that all 3 wild card spots are within striking distance for the Diamondbacks makes me think that if the trade deadline was tomorrow, I mean, I think the Diamondbacks would certainly buy as things stand right now. But as you're saying, it is TBD because this team doesn't have Michael Soroka anymore, and almost certainly will not have Michael Soroka through the trade deadline, and almost certainly will not have Ryan Nelson through the trade deadline. And those are really significant losses. And I don't think it would totally shock anyone if the Diamondbacks were several games under 500 and had dug a little bit too deep of a hole by the time the trade deadline rolls around.
Yeah, we'll just have to see how it all plays out. I mean, look, they've surprised us before. That it's not impossible for them to get on a run. This is baseball. This is why they play, right? Instead of just, go by whatever we spit out of our computers. So, want to fully acknowledge that. I've gotten bit before by being too declarative when it came to where they are and if they're alive or dead. And, they've shown me many times that they have the ability to bounce back and stay alive. So, hopefully we'll have some fun stuff to talk about up through the trade deadline and beyond.
Diamondbacks have 2 more games against the St. Louis Cardinals here. Both very big games. I mean, heck, if the D-backs win the next 2 in St. Louis, like that in and of itself would be really big and would certainly change this discussion. As we mentioned earlier in the show, it is going to be Mitch Bratt making his Diamondbacks debut tomorrow night. Should be fun to watch. Again, a 2.84 ERA this year in AAA. Part of the return from Merrill Kelly in that trade last season. And then on Thursday, it is going to be McGreevy on the St. Louis side. And the Diamondbacks have Zac Gallen going in that game, trying to bounce back from what was a very rough outing against the Minnesota Twins his last time out. Thank you to all of you for being with us on this episode. We really appreciate you sticking around. This has been quite a long one for us, but a lot of news and notes to get to, and certainly an eventful game as the Diamondbacks beat the St. Louis Cardinals on the road by a final score of 4-3. We would love it if you would drop a like on this video. It really helps us out with the YouTube algorithm. It also helps us out if you'd leave us a 5-star review wherever you get your podcast. So be sure to do that if you have not already. You can find us on Twitter. I am at Jesse N. Friedman. Jack is at ShoeWizard59. And our show is at Snakes Territory. You can find Jack's written work over at Arizona Diamondbacks on SI. Jack, any final thoughts here as we say goodbye?
I'm just going to answer one last question. Scott Max asking, how long is Soroka on the IL? They said that they would wait 4 weeks before giving him imaging. So that would take you up until just after the All-Star break from when he got hurt, probably around July 20th there, give or take. They did say that he is going to be able to do some, flat ground throwing. Probably won't be throwing off a mound, but that will help keep him from falling too far behind. So if he has no setbacks, he could probably hop up on a mound, throw some bullpens, and start to get stretched out again. There's an outside chance he could be back by the first week of August or something like that. That's kind of what the best case scenario for him.
Good update there. Thank you again to all of you for being with us on this episode. Our next show will be Thursday night after the finale of the series against the Cardinals. We look forward to hopefully seeing you then. We'll also be live on Friday after that opener against the Tampa Bay Rays. Thank you again to all of you for being with us on this episode. We really appreciate it. And we'll be back once again on Thursday night with another edition of Snakes Territory.